Have you ever felt like you're only getting half the story? Like there's a huge piece of the puzzle missing? Well, today we're digging into a research method that's designed to get the full picture. It's called mixed methods research. And let me tell you, it is one of the most powerful tools we have for understanding the super complex issues that shape our world.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we're going to start with a little mystery, a tale of two clues. Then we'll introduce a more powerful method for solving it. After that, we'll look at the actual blueprint for designing one of these studies. We'll even see it in action with a really fascinating case study. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at why getting that complete picture is just so important.
Okay, so picture this. A brilliant new community program gets launched. In Town A, it's a massive success, a total game changer. But then, just down the road in Town B, it completely falls flat. It's a flop. So why? What's the deal? This is the exact kind of puzzle researchers face all the time. And to solve it, you've got to know how to gather the right kind of clues.
To get to the bottom of this, we first need to look at the two classic ways of investigating something. You can think of them like two different kinds of detectives, right? Each one has their own style, their own toolkit, and, as we'll see, their own blind spots. So on one side, you've got your quantitative detective. This detective is all about the quanta, the hard numbers, the stuff you can count. They're asking, how many people signed up? What was the success rate? They give you the cold, hard facts, the numbers, but they don't give you the story behind the numbers. Then, on the other side, you have the qualitative storyteller. This investigator focuses on the qualia, the rich, subjective human experience. They're asking, why did people feel this way? How did this program actually work in their daily lives? They give you the deep, personal story, but it's often a story from just one specific place.
So you can see where we're hitting a wall here, right? The numbers alone don't really explain why the program failed. And the individual stories, well, they don't prove a bigger pattern. Each one gives us a valuable clue, but neither tells the whole story. And that leads to the big question. What if? What if we could bring these two detectives together to work on the same case? And that, my friends, is exactly where mixed methods research comes into the picture. It's not about picking a side. It's not numbers versus stories. It's about combining them to create something way more powerful than either one could be on its own.
So, what is it exactly? Well, mixed methods research is an approach that intentionally mixes or integrates both quantitative and qualitative methods right inside the same study. The goal here is pretty simple, but it's also kind of profound: to get a more comprehensive, more balanced, and ultimately a more useful understanding of whatever problem you're trying to solve.
I absolutely love this quote from the researcher J.C. Green. They call it a conversation. Think about that. It's not just about crunching numbers and then telling some stories. It's about letting these completely different ways of knowing, these different ways of seeing the world, actually talk to each other. That conversation is what creates a much richer and more complete insight.
So how do you actually do this? How do researchers build a mixed methods study? Well, it's not just a random mashup of techniques. It's a really deliberate design process, like drawing up a blueprint. And it all boils down to two key decisions you have to make right at the start.
Step 1. You've got to choose your purpose. What's the why behind mixing the methods? Maybe you're using triangulation. That's where you use both methods to see if they point to the same conclusion, kind of like getting a second opinion from a different specialist. Or maybe it's development, where you use, say, interviews to help you build a much better survey later on. Or you could be going for complementarity. This is where you use the stories to explain what the heck the numbers are actually showing. It's like getting the director's commentary on a movie.
Okay, so after the why comes the when. This is the second big decision: timing. With a concurrent design, you're collecting the number data and the story data at pretty much the same time. But with a sequential design, you do it in phases, one after the other. For instance, you might analyze a huge set of numbers first, and then, based on what you find, you conduct interviews to dig deeper into the surprising results. That timing is absolutely crucial for how the two kinds of data end up informing each other.
All right, enough theory. Let's see how this all plays out in the real world. We're going to look at a great case study from our source material that looked at an intervention program for girls in a juvenile court system.
So the big research question was, how effective is this new program? The researchers went with a sequential design. First, they looked at the quantitative data, all the court records, and the numbers showed that the program, well, it wasn't really working as well as everybody hoped. But the numbers couldn't tell them why. So that's when they moved to phase 2, the qualitative part. They started interviewing staff and the girls in the program, and that's where they struck gold. They uncovered the real story. Structural problems, economic issues for the families, and even some negative attitudes from the staff were all getting in the way. The numbers pointing to a problem, but only the stories could explain it.
So this really gets to the heart of it. What's the ultimate payoff? I mean, why go to all this extra trouble to combine these methods? It's all about getting that complete, trustworthy, and, most importantly, actionable picture of what's going on.
And the benefits are huge. When your numbers and your stories both tell you the same thing, your findings are just so much more valid, so much more trustworthy. You get to explore not just what happened, but the why behind it. It makes evaluations of programs, just like in that case study, incredibly strong. And as a bonus, it really encourages teamwork, bringing together the data scientists and the ethnographers, the number crunchers and the storytellers.
Now, look, it's not a magic bullet. This approach comes with its own set of challenges, for sure. There isn't a single definitive rulebook you can just follow. Trying to weave together numerical data with rich human stories can be really, really complex. And it asks a lot of the researchers. You kind of have to be an expert in both worlds, which is a pretty tall order. And that brings us right back to where we started. Mixed methods research is this powerful reminder that to solve any real-world mystery, we need to be both the quantitative detective and the qualitative storyteller. So the next time you see a headline with a shocking statistic or you hear a single powerful personal story, just ask yourself, what part of the story are we missing when we only look at one kind of clue?